What is up, One Piece fans? Simon here. Welcome to HannaTalk. Hope you're all doing fantastic. Today I'm here with a very special guest star. Now, she is an actress who is best known to fans as Tony Chopper from One Piece, but she's also played across series such as Fullmetal Alchemist, Dragon Ball, My Hero Academia, Certain Scientific Railgun, Black Butler, Fairy Tail, Fruits Basket, and so much more. Please welcome the amazing Brina Palencia.
Hi! That was quite an intro.
Thank you very much. And how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's a beautiful sunny day right here in Melbourne, Australia.
Nice. It's a cloudy day here in Texas, Dallas, Texas, United States.
I can imagine it is. And I should start off just by saying here that I actually remember the first time I met you back at the last comic convention I went to years before the lockdowns had taken place back in I think it was 2016 or 2017, I think it was, when it was you and Trina Nishimura who were at the same convention at Supernova.
Yeah, was it maybe 2018 actually?
I think it was 2017, I think it was.
2017, okay.
Yes, I remember.
Because I for sure did some in 2018, and it was like when I had just found out that I was pregnant with my now 3.5-year-old.
Oh, wow. That is fantastic. I still remember it quite vividly to this day how it was you and Trina Nishimura that I both met. And it was also at the same event when Christopher Lloyd was one of the special guest stars at that very same convention, which was a huge deal, which was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, all of those Supernova conventions are so much fun. I have like incredible memories. I've done a bunch of them, so I think I did also do one back in 2017, but like a different like tour of them because they're like all over Australia. But yeah, I have not done one in a long time because I have my kiddo now. But man, they were so much fun back in the day.
Absolutely. And now, of course, we're now officially starting to move past the point of the lockdowns and the pandemic at this point, or at least in a really good place with them. Now comic conventions are starting to slowly come back on the rise again, especially here in Australia, which is just fantastic. So fingers crossed, we'll get you back in Australia again one day.
I hope so. I would love to go maybe when my son's a little bit older and can handle that kind of flight. Just because I think it'd be really neat because I could be like, hey, I was pregnant with you the last time I came here.
Now, let's get right in. Now, of course, getting right into this. Now, how have you been keeping things up, especially with what's been happening for the virus in the last 2 years? How have you been keeping things up, especially on the acting side of things?
Oh man, I just haven't. I just have not. Well, because my thing is, not only was there the pandemic, but I mean I also have a kid, so I was already very very much had slowed down on all of my career stuff when I had my son in early 2019, and then right after he turned 1 was when the lockdown initially happened, and I have been mostly momming. Honestly, in some ways, the pandemic actually made it easier on me to get back into some voice acting. Like I started doing some stuff with Audible, just because recording from home became so normalized. And it's easier for me to arrange recording from home than back in the day. I would like fly out to LA or New York or wherever was recording, wherever they needed me to be, and just be like, yep, I'll be there. But now I can very easily just be like, oh, can I just record from my home studio in Texas? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. So it's been a little bit easier in that regard. But even still, I mean, I actively do not. That sounds weird. I do not audition for stuff anymore on purpose because I'm just like, please don't cast me because I just don't. I don't have a lot of spare time. I will take occasional roles here and there, especially like if I am really into the role or really passionate about the show or something. But yeah, I try not to do a lot.
Right, that's fantastic. I mean, especially considering the fact that in the last 2 years, animation was kind of really the one industry that still kept going throughout all this time. And because
Yeah.
of how easy it is, even though animation does take a long time to get out so much, because it's so much more involved than it is than it is doing live action work. But it's kind of been the one
Yeah.
industry that has kind of not stopped in a way. It just kept going
Well, yeah,
forever.
because with animation, while it does take more work, it's very insular work. You know what I mean? You don't have to get, 100 people on a set to make a scene happen. Like, it's just like, all right, I did my part, and now I'm going to pass it off to you, and then they pass it off to the other person. You know what I mean? Like, it
Mm.
can all, like, not all, but I think, actually, I do think all of it could technically be done remotely, depending on the team. But, for just about, I think, any studio, most of it can be done remotely.
Right, that's fantastic. Now, let's get right into the very beginning of how it all began for you. How did you get started in acting?
Well, I got my start. I did a lot of community theater and stuff in, junior high and high school. I also sang for the Tulsa Youth Opera um, way back in the day when I was like 11 and 12, um, and did some operas through them. And yeah, so like performance and stuff was kind of always a part of my life, be it through singing or through acting. But acting really spoke to me because I think music was sort of like a given because both of my parents are musicians, but acting felt like it was my thing. Like nobody else in my family did that. So it's just like, no, this is my thing. Acting is my thing. So, yeah, I had taken a tour of Funimation because I was a huge Dragon Ball Z fan. And in high school, I just by happenstance, total luck, um, lived in just outside of Fort Worth, and a girl that we all went to high school with, her uncle knew somebody who worked at Funimation or something like that, and so she set up a tour for all of us to go see how they record. And I think I was 16 at the time, and I remember watching Chris Sabat record Piccolo, and just thinking like, man, I want to do that. And when I graduated high school, I, ended up going to community college, um, very close to the studio. And I literally just walked in and asked how to audition. That is not a thing you can do now. Like, you'll totally get escorted off the premises by security. There are plenty of ways to figure out how to audition um, on the interwebs, and how to become a voice actor on the interwebs. You don't just walk into a studio and ask how to do that. But back then, that was 20 years ago. So like they were just as flabbergasted as I was. That like
Wow.
I was asking the question, and it was like a bunch of cubicles. Like I had gone to like the office portion of it, and like there was just like one woman who just kind of popped her head up and was like, I don't know how you do that. Let's find out. And she just like took me like cubicle to cubicle and was like, do you know how people audition for us? Oh, okay, let's ask so and so in marketing or whatever. Like, and just went like person to person to person. And finally, they found the talent coordinator, and I gave them my number. And I was lucky enough to get to do an open call like 2 months later. And then I just kept auditioning and auditioning and auditioning. And I would occasionally get called in for what's called like Bits and Walla. So it's like Walla, it's short for With All Actors. And it's where you just go into the booth with a bunch of other actors, like probably 2 or 3, sometimes 4 or 5, depending on how big the booth is. And you do like crowd scenes. So anytime that you see a main character walking through like a marketplace or something, or just walking through the street and you kind of hear the murmuring in the background, that actually has to be recorded. And so it would just be us in a booth all pretending to talk to one another and asking the price of apples and those kinds of things. And so I did that for like 2 years before I got my first featured character, which was Nina Tucker in Full Metal Alchemist.
Wow.
Yeah, and so from there, I just got more and more stuff. And then after a couple of years, Colleen Clinkenbeard um, asked me to direct for her, because at the time, she was producing. She's still producing, but she's back to directing again as well. But yeah, so she asked me to be a director, and she kind of trained me in doing that, and I directed a few shows. I did Moon Phase and Triple X Holic, and my favorite, which was School Rumble, because I got to cast that one and record it, or direct it from start to finish. That show was totally my baby. And then I did Blood Brothers, which was Michael Tatum's first lead role. You're welcome, world. Since he's like a huge sensation now and one of my dear friends. But yeah, after that I was just kind of like, I don't think I want to do this. I think I want to focus on acting. And that's when I went full-time acting. But I learned so much about acting through directing, especially doing School Rumble, because it was like a master class getting to direct Lucy Christian. Like, because I remember admiring her so much and just being like, oh my god, I want to be like Lucy Christian when I grow up. And like just watching how she did it and how she took direction from me, like, who, like, to be fair, I did not know what I was doing in comparison to her, but I did know the show and I did understand comedy, and like she really listened to me. But she also just brought so much to that character, and like just had just so much professionalism and just so much talent and skill. And so I just learned a ton from directing her and watching her perform day in and day out. And yeah, it's crazy, like the amount of roles that I ended up getting after directing people like her and Monica Rial and Jason Liebrecht, like and Jason Douglas, like working with those level of pros was just kind of like, oh, that's how you do it. And I went from like occasionally booking a role to just like bam, 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 like just booking like crazy. And then from there, I'm just like rambling on and on. I've never gone this much in depth with this question. Usually I'm like, I walked into the studio and asked how to act. But yeah, no, I'm going to give you the full thing. So I go into the full-time acting. I stop directing. And I'm like, I get an agent. Chris Sabat actually helped me sign with his agent, and who is my agent to this day, Mary Collins, here in Dallas. And from there I started doing on-camera stuff. And after a few years, I did a lot of like commercial and like industrial work. Industrial work is like the kind of stuff that whenever you get a job at like Taco Bell and you have to watch those videos where someone's like, this is how you make a taco, or whatever, like those are considered industrial videos. So I did a bunch of those. But I also was lucky enough to do some really fun like indie horror films, and then I also did some TV. I got to do a whole season of a show on a network called CW, and it didn't last after season 1, but it was my first time being a series regular, which is really exciting. It was called Star-Crossed. I think you can still get it on the CW app. I don't know if that's true for Australia, but yeah. And then I also I got to do an episode on The Walking Dead, and I got to do an episode on Castle, and one on The Good Guys, and one on Chase. And yeah, I did all of that, and then I started doing motion capture and video games, and I got to do Farpoint and Westworld Awakening, and yeah, got into video games kind of around the same time that I got into film acting. Obviously Borderlands was a big one for me, but yeah, so then I had my kid and my world exploded, and I now have no idea how to get back into my career, which I do want to do, but I also really like being around my child, and I like spending time with him. So, and he's still really young. I mean, he's only 3.5. Maybe when he's like in like regular school and stuff, I might give it more of a go than I have lately. But for right now, I like where I'm at.
That is fantastic. That is absolutely amazing. And
that is the record for the longest explanation I've ever given.
No, that is
how I got.
No, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. That is fantastic. No, that is absolutely fantastic. And what's really amazing about that is the fact that you've admired is that as you explained about when you were back in high school, how you looked up to a lot of these voice actors from the likes of Colin Clickenbeard, Chris Sabat, Lucy Christian, and then funnily enough, would get to work alongside them in amongst all these projects, and in the very series that you watched when you were a kid, which was
Yeah,
incredible, which is
yeah,
absolutely
no,
fantastic.
it's wild. When we were recording Dragon Ball Kai, um, Chris Sabat actually asked me to help him with directing, so I was like assistant directing for him, and we we got to the Cell Saga, which was my favorite of all the Dragon Ball Z like arcs or whatever, and it was also ironically the same arc that I got to that they were recording when we took the tour back when I was in high school. So it was like a really meaningful arc to me. And I remember, I forget who I was directing. I think I was directing Sunny um, as Krillin. And I just like took a moment and I was like, I cannot believe I am here. Like if my 15-year-old self knew that this was happening, like there's just no way there's no way I would have believed it. It's wild.
That's incredible, and that's absolutely fantastic. Now, of course, as many people will know, that based on a lot of anime series, that there is manga attached to it. Now, of course, you spoke about being a really big Dragon Ball Z fan. Did you ever read the manga for the Dragon Ball Z stories before you got to work on Dragon Ball, or read the manga for any anime series that you've worked on?
No, I have read manga, but I've never read manga for anything that I've worked on. Strangely enough, the only manga that I've read, um, now I can't even remember the name of it, but it was a manga that was gifted to me by Caitlin Glass. It was about music. I don't know that I think it was turned into an anime, but I don't think it was ever dubbed. Um, Shoot, I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, no, I'm not. I'm honestly, this is something that I've come to terms with. I'm not much of a reader, period. I really don't read very much. I used to be really ashamed of that fact because I want to be like the intellectual, like, oh yes, I've read 20 books this year, like many of my friends are. But I'm just not that person. I'm not good at reading. And I got officially diagnosed with ADHD this year. And like one of the questions was like, oh, do you have difficulty reading books? And I was like, yes. It's like probably because
Wow.
you have ADHD. And I was like, yeah, that's why. And now I'm like, that's the only reason I now feel comfortable. I'm like, it's because I'm neurodivergent. That's why I don't read books. I'll listen to a book all day. Give me an audiobook any day, and I will listen to it. But yeah, it is really hard for me to focus on a book.
Wow, that's incredible. That's just insane. But it's just like as you explained, of course, how thankfully, thanks to the world of technology, we of course have Audible, and of course we've got also YouTube, where they're actually starting to do like a lot of these videos of people acting out like the books from like back in
Oh,
the day.
that's neat.
What was that? Sorry?
I said that's neat. I haven't heard of that.
I've actually discovered that through a lot of the books myself that I've read, mostly from not necessarily manga, but a lot of the comic books that I've read, from like stories from like Batman to Superman to even the Star Wars Thrawn trilogy, where people have actually taken like panels from the books and actually started just acting it out in a way just to give people an idea for, say, yeah, if you're not a fan of reading, here's this.
That's neat. I like that.
Yeah, so it's kind of similar in the way that a lot of actors have gone to doing audiobooks through like not just through books that have just been recently created, but also through books that have existed for long periods of time. The best example of that is with Mark Thompson, who did the voice of Grand Admiral Thrawn during the Star Wars Thrawn trilogy of audiobooks, which was incredible. And I honestly didn't know about that at the time. I was like, wow, I never didn't see that coming.
That's neat. Yeah. No,
Absolutely.
I very much appreciate it. It's definitely making stuff a lot more accessible, and I don't have to feel like such a loser being able to like I want so badly to be that person that just like snuggles up with a book and like my tea and whatever, and I'm like, I got the tea down, but Yeah, reading a book, not so much.
Well, welcome to the world of technology.
Yay!
Exactly. Now going on across a little bit, now for any of the series that you worked on in the past, or you currently do now, for any series where your character is a main character, or a character that is featured prominently across the series, do you have an idea of where your character is going in terms of the story or arc, or is everything recorded out of context?
Nowadays, it's a lot more out of context because we don't have the ability to pre-watch the show. Because back in the day, you know, like the whole show would come out in Japan and then it would come over here and we would dub it and but we would have access to, you know, every episode. And so I oftentimes had watched, if it was given to me, because back then it also was not streaming in Japanese. They had to like give you the Japanese show to watch, or the Japanese version to watch ahead of time. But like shows like Black Butler, I watched all of that before I recorded it. I hadn't watched, but I did see the twist, or I didn't know the ending of Future Diary. Because the director felt it was important that I knew that because my character knew how things ended. So yeah, like sometimes the director will have read. Nowadays, the director has to kind of read the manga to be able to at least guess what's going to happen in the anime, and they'll kind of give you that context. But a lot of times, it really is just kind of like, here we go. This is what we know about this character in this episode, and that's all I can give you.
No, but that's just absolutely fantastic. It definitely reminds me of the video I watched of you where you were in the recording booth with Mike McFarland doing a scene from, I think it was from one of the episodes from One Piece, which was not out of the manga itself, but it was kind of a filler episode that was created for the series. And you're basically trying to dub against like this part where Chopper is basically screaming his head off at Nami during that. And for me, it was absolutely fantastic just to see the ins and outs of how that worked, and all of you just having such a great time at that.
Yeah, I mean, One Piece especially is an incredibly fun show to work on.
Absolutely. Now, going across into your first voiceover role, now you spoke about where it was Fullmetal Alchemist as Nina Taka. What was it like stepping into playing in Fullmetal Alchemist, especially with Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood coming down later in the track?
I mean, it was awesome. I was so excited because, like I said, you know, it was my first featured character. The only thing is, I didn't realize that it was only a featured character. I thought that it was like a lead character, and so I didn't realize, you know, spoiler, about her demise. Like, I didn't know that was coming. So I was excited in the fact that it made for great storytelling, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a very memorable role, and that's really cool. But I was disappointed financially because I was like, oh, this is not going to be nearly as many hours of recording as I thought it was going to be. Okay. So, yeah, it was, I mean, but getting to watch it, because that was when Fullmetal Alchemist was on Cartoon Network, and getting to watch it with like my friends and my husband and like, I mean, my boyfriend at the time, like it was just so cool. Like it was, I mean, I felt like I had made it, and I was like certain that that was the pinnacle. Like I didn't think much else would come of it. But yeah, it was really great.
No, that's fantastic. And it was definitely a really great series in and of itself for what it was during the time. And then, of course, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood came into the picture, which in a way was kind of there to tell the full, complete story of the manga. And that in itself was just like shot right up there with the best of them. And you did a fantastic job across the series. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
You're very welcome for that. Now, moving across into another character that you're best known for playing is Chopper from One Piece. What's it been like playing that character in the series, especially like with how long the franchise has lasted for, which I think has been nearly 25 years at this point.
Yeah, we've only dubbed on it for, I want to say like 18 years, maybe less actually. But yeah, it was one of my very first lead roles, and um, getting cast with so many just legends, like people that I really looked up to, like Lucy Christian, Colleen Clinkenbeard, Chris Sabat, Sunny Strait, like all these people that I adored and like wanted to be just like. I was just so like, what? Like, how is this possible? Which I think fed into the performance really well. It was very easy for me to just be like enamored and feel like out of place, like in the beginning of Chopper's journey. But yeah, I mean, it's such a great show to work on. It's just so well written. We talk about it all the time about how the best thing about One Piece and the reason it has so much staying power is that, I mean, the characters grow so much. Like they just go through all of these incredible adventures together and go through so much heartache together, and they change. I mean, they really do just deepen as characters. I mean, not only do they become stronger in that they gain more fighting skills and stuff, but they also just become better humans, Like, it's just so great to see. I mean, when I compare Chopper in the beginning of the series to now, I mean, he's just a completely different person. Like, just night and day. Like, and it's so fun to have gone on that journey with him. Like, it doesn't happen that you get to live with a character for that long. I mean, it's just like, it's incredible, and it's such a unique experience, and I feel so honored to be a part of it.
Absolutely, and absolutely honored to have you and all the other actors be involved in the One Piece series, because it's, for me personally, like one of the best anime of all time, and you've all have done fantastic jobs throughout the years, and I really cannot wait for the ending of the series. It's gonna be fantastic. Now, the creator himself, Oda, has been very open about the series, especially with regards to the ending of the series. How do you personally want the series to end, particularly with your character?
Man, I get asked this question a lot, and I should, come up with some sort of answer. But I don't know. I don't really like to speculate on things. I like to just experience them as they unfold. But I think as long as it keeps going in sort of the direction that it has been, it'll be incredible. I have no doubt.
Absolutely. And here's to another 25 years, or however long Oda decides to continue running the series for.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Now, of course, at this point where the series is going, what kind of storylines do you personally want to explore in the series? And if there was the chance for a One Piece spin-off series, what would you want that to focus on?
Oh, wow. A One Piece spin-off series. I never even thought of that. I think it'd be awesome if there could be like a children's series that's all centers completely around Chopper Man. The Super Chopper or whatever that was the filler episode.
Yeah,
that we did.
That'd be pretty cool, actually.
I would love for there to be like a little kids series, because my son would love that too. He hasn't watched the show because it's pretty violent for like a 3-year-old to watch. A little intense, but he loves the character of Chopper, and I have Chopper pops and plushies and stuff, and which are now all his, as he has told me. And he loves Chopper, and he also loves Luffy because he knows the Chopper Doctor song. I don't know if you've heard that one. It's in Japanese, but he's heard it in Japanese, and he like loves it. The Boku wa Doctor. But like, he loves that song, and he knows that it's him and Luffy singing. So he knows that Luffy and Chopper are friends, and he knows that Chopper's a doctor, and a pirate, but that's all he knows. But yeah, if it could be like a little spin-off Chopper series for little kids. I would love that so much. I think that would be so fun to do, and I would love for my kiddo to be able to watch it.
That would be amazing. And of course, Oda is still personally working on the main series at this point, but it wouldn't surprise me that much if he just turns around and says, you know what, let's get into doing some spin-offs on this.
Yeah, I mean, he should.
Absolutely.
Like, get after it. Go for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, of course, speaking a little bit further about with One Piece, apart from acting as Chopper, you also had the chance to sing a few of the songs during the One Piece series. What was that like?
Oh, so fun, so fun. I adapted the lyrics for a few of them that I did not sing as well, and it's I had done so much of them that I started to get so fast at adapting the songs. Like usually, it'll take me like a day or a couple days, sometimes even 3 days, like working on a song to adapt it. But like because the themes were always about like sailing and adventuring, and like it was always like the same repeated themes, it like I don't know what happened, but it just became incredibly easy. And there was one time, it's the fastest I've ever adapted a song in my life. It took me 30 minutes
Wow.
to adapt a whole theme, and I was like, whoa, that's never gonna happen again. And it hasn't happened since.
Wow, that is just fantastic. That's crazy. And of course, with speaking about like the song you were mentioning about, hopefully there's it would be really amazing. And let me know to all the listeners out there in the comments below, leave a like or a comment if you really want to hear Brina Palencia and Colin Clinkenbeard do an English dubbed version of the song of the Doctor song from One Piece, because that would be fantastic.
I want to. I really want to. I was thinking about like looking into like maybe I could just do that on the side, like just for my own benefit, like because I actually just did a cover of one of the songs in One Piece Film Red, and it was an easier process than I realized. And so now I'm like, maybe I should do that for the Chopper Doctor song.
That would be fantastic. Even just to do like a full musical episode of One Piece would be amazing.
Oh, that would be so fun. Colleen would hate it so much. she hates singing.
But
and
no,
she's fine. Like she's sang as Luffy multiple times and she sounds great, but she just hates it so much.
But still, that would be amazing though. That would be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it'd be so fun.
Absolutely. Now, of course, we have the live-action One Piece series that is coming up by Netflix that Oda is personally part of. What's been your opinion on anime being adapted for live action?
I think it's really cool. I'm excited to see what happens with it. It doesn't always translate super well, but man, when I saw the video that they released of their sets, I got chills. Like, I just didn't expect it to look that incredible. I mean, it feels like you're walking in the anime. It blew my mind. So I'm very excited to see what it all looks like and how it all plays out. But all the casts that I've seen so far are so cute, and they seem really well cast. And I'm really excited to see how it plays out. I think it has the potential to be super cool and like really fun.
I agree on that 100%. The cast actually looks fantastic, and especially because in fact that Oda is personally involved in the series himself, and I think he was the one to pick the cast out himself personally, or get a bit of insight into it. So he's involved in it from every step of the way. So if you want to trust any...
He's always very involved. He actually, he handpicked us as well for the voice acting. So he's always very particular about who portrays his characters, and rightfully so.
Absolutely. So if you want to trust in anyone, to the listeners out there, trust in Oda, because he's the master of it. And
That's
now,
right.
Of course, now my question to you, Brina, and to the listeners out there, when this interview is officially up, let me know in the comments below, what do you personally want to see in the live-action One Piece series, and leave a like or a comment if you really want to see Brina Palencia be the voice of Chopper in the live-action series alongside Jamie Lee Curtis as Dr. Kureha.
Oh my gosh. That would be mind-blowing. Like that feels impossible. Like it feels like that's way too awesome of a thing to happen. I would be over the moon if something like that happened. But yeah, also just for the record, Jamie Lee Curtis truly is one of the most generous human beings on the planet. You know, I think she's said multiple times in her interviews that she and I met many years ago because her daughter was a huge fan of One Piece, and I got to meet her daughter and do some voice recordings for her, and since then, just kind of, she sort of just like welcomed me into her life. Like I've been to her house multiple times and met other members of her family and her friends, and like she sends gifts to my son every Christmas, and for his birthday every year. She also sent him some fun Halloween stuff this year. Like she's like mind-blowingly generous. It's wild. She's an incredible human being. She's exactly as cool as you want her to be. Like, you know, when you see celebrities and you're like, God, I hope they're that cool in person. She is absolutely that cool, and she's even like, she's just kind. Like from the moment I met her, I felt like I was like she was my mom. Like she was just so sweet.
That is fantastic, and no, that's definitely true, especially because of especially as you were talking about, like during the interviews where she spoke about being a huge One Piece fan and says she would be up for playing like either Nico Robin if she could, but then going and saying that she would play Dr. Kureha in an instant, and I would be blown away if they got you as the voice of Chopper in the live action series and got you to act alongside Jamie Lee Curtis, because that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would for sure be mind-blowing.
And of course,
I'm not holding my breath, and I won't be upset if that doesn't happen. Of course, like, whatever, it's Hollywood, like, things happen. But for the record, I would totally be down.
Absolutely. Well, if they could manage to get the voice of Tails, Colin O'Shaughnessy, to come back as Tails in the movie franchise, then
yeah, that was so cool.
Then anything is possible at this point. And this is Oda we're talking about, so he'll know exactly what to do.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Now, you've also played across in franchises, as we've just talked about, such as the Dragon Ball franchise, but you've also played across in series such as My Hero Academia, Certain Scientific Railgun, Black Butler, Fairy Tail, and Fruits Basket. What was it like playing across all these different shows?
Oh man, I feel really lucky that I've gotten to play such a variety of characters. You know, people ask, like, what's your favorite type of character to play? And I'm like, well, the one that's different from the one I did before. I always want to play characters that are new and like challenge me in new ways, and all of those roles that you just said are all vastly different. And you know, it was a different journey with each one of them, and I feel like I grow as a person when I am stretched as an actor, and it's the best part about my job is getting to do so many different types of characters.
Absolutely, and that's just fantastic. Now, talking a little bit more about with regards to Dragon Ball, what storylines would you personally want to explore in the future with the Dragon Ball franchise, now that they've done a film entirely based on Gohan and Piccolo, and now that they've started to look at the idea of doing films and episodes focused on specific characters that is not just on Goku and Vegeta, what would you personally want to explore in the Dragon Ball universe?
Ooh, that's a great question. I mean, you know what I would love? Okay, so this is not technically in the Dragon Ball universe, but she does crossover. I would love it if we could do Dr. Slump, the Arale character that I play. And she did like an appearance in Dragon Ball Super. There was like a whole episode where basically like Dr. Slump, which is like the show that the Dragon Ball creator did before, like I would love it. I would love to do more Arale and like explore that character a lot more because she's wild.
That would be fantastic. That would be absolutely amazing. Now, of course, we've ended up getting a lot of reboots and revivals on a lot of anime over the years. And you, of course, and in the case of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, but also in the case of Fruits Basket. If you wanted to do a reboot or revival of one of the projects that you've worked on, what would that be?
Oh, 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 Spice and Wolf.
Wow.
I would love to do more Spice and Wolf. Michael Tatum, who plays Lawrence, he and I have been lucky enough to get to revisit those characters doing the light novels. We've been doing the narration for the light novels, so if you listen to the audiobook versions of them, it's his and my voice. Voices, what's the proper grammar for that? His and my voices. Whatever. You know what I mean.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, it's like rekindled that, like, oh God, I miss Holo. She's just so awesome. I love that character so much, and I just love their relationship. And like I would love to be able to explore like what happens to them, like in the light novels, down the road. Like I would love for that to be in the anime. But yeah, I would love that.
That would be fantastic. That would be absolutely amazing. Especially because in the fact we are getting a lot of revivals of a lot of these classic anime from over the last 20 years, even further beyond that, and even getting reboots of a lot of these animes done to really high standards, which is just absolutely fantastic. The case in point obviously being for Fruits Basket, which is, in my honest opinion, one of the best reboots of any anime series in a long time. It was fantastic.
Wow, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I felt very lucky to be a part of it.
Absolutely. So anything's possible at this point. Anything is
Yeah.
totally possible. Now, you've also played across in video game properties, predominantly the Fire Emblem series and the Borderlands series, as you talked about. What was it like playing across these gaming properties?
Fire Emblem is pretty short-lived as far as like the voice acting, like the sessions. So I don't have as like deep of a connection with my characters. I love my characters, don't get me wrong. But I mean, Moxie, I've been playing Moxie for years at this point. You know what I mean? And the funny thing about Moxie is that I felt so uncomfortable playing her in the beginning because I thought I was so poorly cast. I was like, why am I this character? Because I had never played a sexy character before. Before Moxie, I'd only ever played like little kids. I had voiced like awkward boys and little girls, and I was just like, I'm sorry, are you sure that I'm the one you wanted for this? Like, even because I auditioned for it, assuming like, oh, this audition will be a great chance for me to stretch my legs and whatever, practice this type of character that I'm obviously never going to get cast as. And my agent called and was like, hey, you got cast in Borderlands. And I was like, oh, cool, which part? And she was like, Mad Moxie. And I was like, well, that's clearly inaccurate. I'll find out when I get there what role I'm playing. And sure enough, I get there and I'm like, who am I playing? And they're like, didn't your agent tell you you're playing Mad Moxie? And I was like, oh. And in my head, I was like, well, this is going to be one session and they're going to fire me for sure. And so they never fired me though. And I just kept coming in, and I always felt like, until recent years, I always felt like I was just like a little girl wearing her mom's heels and like trying to walk in her mom's heels. Like that's how I always felt voicing Moxie. But I have grown up. I've voiced that character for like a decade now, I think. So yeah, I feel pretty confident now voicing Moxie.
That's fantastic. That's just absolutely wonderful. And now, of course, my question to all the listeners out there who will be listening when this interview is officially up, let me know in the comments below, what do you want to see them do in the live-action Borderlands film, which is still going to be coming, by the way, and leave a like or a comment if you really want to see Brina Palencia make a Stan Lee cameo in the Borderlands live-action film. That would be pretty amazing.
Oh, well, so just so you're aware, I'm pretty sure they finished filming, so I don't think that's happening. But that would have been dope. There was I believe, to do that, but it was right in the middle of COVID. And like shooting during COVID times was incredibly complicated and difficult. So like it just was not, it wasn't like an easy thing to do. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think it was for lack of trying that like some actors didn't make an appearance, but it was just not in the cards.
That's all right though. But if they ever plan to do sequels at some point in the future, which it sounds like that they will, fingers crossed that you get to make a Stanley cameo in the sequels, because that would be amazing.
That would be amazing. I hadn't heard. I don't keep up with news in general, but yeah, I hadn't heard, or Hollywood news anyway, that they were gonna potentially make sequels. But that would be super dope, because now it's a lot easier to make something like that happen. So yeah, that'd be really cool.
Absolutely. Now, a bit of a head scratcher on this one here. Where do you hope to see yourself with regards to acting and entertainment in the long run?
I'm not sure. I've actually been trying to figure that out for myself, just redefining myself, now being a mom, and reevaluating things that are important to me. I actually, as of late, have been focusing a lot more on my music. Like I said, I came out with a cover of Top Musica. I did it in Spanish, which was really fun for me to do. I did the official English subtitles for Ado for her music videos, which was a really cool and like wild experience, because I've never been asked to do that, but they wanted the subtitles to be singable essentially, and so I did those subtitles, and then when Amelie, was cast as Uta, she got permission to use those lyrics, the English lyrics that I wrote, for her covers of the songs, which and she didn't have to, because I don't own the rights to them or anything, but she asked my permission as well, which I thought was really sweet. But when I was writing the English lyrics for Top Musica, for all of the songs I didn't have story context for the movie. I didn't, have the movie script or anything to go off of, so I was just sort of coming up with my own inspirations. And for Top Musica, it made me think of my father is Honduran, and a lot of my family still lives in Honduras, and it was a very tumultuous time for the past like 12 years, 15 years. I'm trying to remember exactly. There was a coup that happened many years ago that really turned the whole country on its head, and like it was just on a constant decline, and it was just getting more and more dangerous and awful, and I was always worried about my family, and it was just such an oppressive place to be. And so the song to me was about overcoming oppression through the power of music. And so when I wrote the English lyrics, the whole time I was thinking of my family in Honduras and all that they endured. And then in my head I was like, man, I really hope somebody covers this in Spanish. It would be really cool in Spanish. And then I was like, maybe I should cover it in Spanish.
Wow.
I was like, I had never adapted a song into Spanish before, and so I was like, I wonder if I can do that. And so I gave it a go, and then I had my little brother and his wife, who are much better at Spanish than me because they still live in Honduras, help me to make sure that I didn't sound like a total idiot. And I feel like it turned out pretty well. So you guys can check that out on any streaming platform. But that being said, I plan on doing more covers, but I also am in the midst of recording an album of my own music. For those of you who are longtime fans of mine, you might remember when I used to do like the Instagram songs, and I have like just so many original songs that I never did anything with other than putting them on Instagram. And I've decided to do something, and I have my producers all lined up, and we've already gotten some instrumental tracks made already. So yeah, that should. Our goal is to have that out late next year. So that's kind of where my focus has been. It's easier because I can, dictate my own schedule with that kind of stuff. Whereas with acting, not so much. So yeah, I've mostly been focusing on my music for now, and then I think when my son is much older, I'll feel more comfortable going back into acting full time, or maybe I won't. I don't know. I'm not really somebody that plans ahead very much.
No, but that's fantastic. Or even just getting to do both as well, which would be
Yeah.
keep a balance of the two of them, which would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be super fun.
Absolutely. Now you've obviously spoken about like wanting to do like focus a bit more on doing a crossover with Doctor Slump and Dragon Ball. But what I think would be really amazing, what would be a really amazing crossover to do, and I think they've done this before, but they haven't dubbed it into English, is to do a full-on Dragon Ball Z and One Piece crossover. That would.
Yes, that would be amazing. I've seen so many, all right, I've been given so many Tony Chopper like toys where he's dressed as Dragon Ball characters, and it fills my heart with so much joy. It's so cute, and that would be amazing.
Absolutely, that would be fantastic. So to all the creators out there of those two shows, make a crossover happen because that would be amazing. That would be fantastic.
Yes, that would be so fun.
Absolutely. Now, looking back at your entire career as an actress, what's like one character or role that you've ever wanted to play or ever wished that you played?
Um, you know, I would like to play more villains. I'm realizing I haven't played that many villains. I've definitely played a lot of anti-heroes, but I would love to just like just portray some pure evil, you know? I think that'd be really fun. And then on the complete flip side of that, I also think it'd be fun to play a mom. I don't ever play moms. Like the mom character. It's not one I play. But now that I am one, I'm like, come on! I know how to sound like a mom now. I definitely did not before being a mom, but now I do.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. And also looking back at your entire career and all, is like what would you say has been like the one role that resonates with you the most?
Mm, um, there's two roles that I feel really defined me as an actor because they stretched me so much and challenged me in so many ways. Um, the one of them being um, in Future Diary, and the other CL Phantom Hive and Black Butler. Um, CL in particular was so complicated both emotionally and also just technically, doing, having to play the boy and then also having the accent. On top of that it was challenging, and then to be able to do that believably while also emoting it was like acting acrobatics. It was really fun. I mean, it was super hard, and to me that equals fun. And then she's my favorite yandere character that I've ever played because I feel that they gave her so much depth. They made her so much more complicated than just I like a boy and I'm crazy. They gave her a very rich backstory, and like it just made it easier for me as an actor to really empathize with her and kind of understand where she's coming from and understand her motivations because it was just so well written. And I'm really appreciative of the fact that that show is kind of having a resurgence as of late because I think they just put it up on Crunchyroll streaming. So yeah, I'm really happy that more of the newer fans are starting to dive into that show because it's a good one. I feel like it was kind of ahead of its time.
Wow, that is fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. Now, a bit of a head scratcher on this one here is looking back not just your entire career, but also at the animation industry and the voice acting industry. what is your opinion on where the voice acting and animation industry stands within the entertainment industry?
Well, okay. So original animation definitely gets a lot of respect, and especially since the pandemic, a lot of on-camera people were scrambling to try to become voice actors because it's a job that can keep going. Unfortunately, the anime dubbing industry is not very well respected or very highly regarded because it is the lowest paid form of voice acting, um, and a lot of it is non-union. And so unfortunately that translates to other people in the industry not really taking you very seriously, which is unfortunate because, dub acting is the hardest acting. I mean, I believe Mike McFarlane likes to say it's like acting with weights on, because you not only have to read the line believably, you also have to do it while, like, in a very specific timing. You have to match the mouth movements and all of that, and you don't get to dictate how it goes. So yeah, it's really, really challenging, and it's a really great style of acting to cut your teeth on, in my opinion, because it is so difficult. So whenever you have those, you no longer have those restraints, you can really let loose and just kind of like, oh, this is easy. But yeah, so I hope to see more respect. I mean, it's kind of weird that it's still not that well respected, even though it's like becoming one of the most popular things in the world. But it's that the industry at large, like the entertainment industry at large, doesn't really respect work if it's work that isn't paid a lot, and if it's work that is non-union, because it's just considered sort of trash work. And thankfully, SAG-AFTRA recently or I think is still in the process, but close to the end of renegotiating the dubbing contract, which gives people a bump in pay a little bit. And there are more studios using it. Netflix, for example, actually has their own union contract through SAG-AFTRA that they were able to negotiate. And so all of their properties that they produce are union. And yeah, I mean, we'll see as far as the rest of the industry goes. It would be great to see it happen, because I do think that's what would gain more respect as an art form, if it were union. And I think it would also help with standardizing rates, because in non-union work the rates are all over the place for voice actors. Like I've heard anywhere from like $40 to like $175. Like, it's like all over the place. I don't know many people that go to $175, for the record. And I think that was only for like one project. But anyway, it's like all over the place. And if it were unionized, it'd be a lot more transparent as far as like what rates are. And then it also, if it's unionized, it helps with health insurance and pension. Which unfortunately in the United States is very hard to come by if you do not have a regular job. So yeah, it'd be nice. I don't know if or when that will happen, but I hope it does.
I think it's really more of a question of, not really a matter of if, but really just a matter of when, though, because as explained, animation has been the one industry that has been consistent even during the lockdown, where it has been the one industry that has not stopped in any way or form. And I will say this straight off the bat, and I've said this across in a lot of interviews I've done, and I will say this till the day I die. If people were to ever ask me why I still go to comic conventions, I go to meet the voice actors. They're my rock stars right there.
Oh, that's so sweet, Simon. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I think it's really, it's just as you explained it, of course, with what's happening with animation at the moment, especially like with where Warner Brothers is going at the moment, with what's happening with a lot of the animated projects they've had working under there, where they've started to have a lot of really big cuts at the moment because of obviously because of the merger that's happening with Warner Brothers at the moment, where a lot of animated projects have gone thrown by the wayside because of this merger that's happening, and it's really, it is incredibly frustrating to see what's happening to animation at this point. But it's not a question of if it gets better, it's more of a question of when it's going to get better.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope you're right.
That's what I like to believe anyway, and it definitely will happen. Now, without going into any spoilers, what's next for Brina Palencia for the fans to know about?
Well, I do have another cover coming. I actually have a couple covers coming. Probably, I'm hoping I'll have one done by the end of this month, but I'm gonna go ahead and say December, just to like make sure. Yeah, but yeah, I'm very bad at social media. You can follow me on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. It's just called Brina Palencia. If you subscribe to that, then you'll get notified the next song that I put out. But beyond that, I'm not good at remembering to like tell anyone that I did a song. I like have my friends reminding me like, hey, you should maybe post that. I'm like, oh my god, you're right. Oh my god, yeah. That's why no one's heard it. Because I didn't tell anyone to listen to it. But yeah, please, you can listen to Talk Musica right now. I have the lyric video up on my YouTube channel, and it is streaming on all the Spotifys and the Apples and the Googles and all the things.
No, that's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. And final question, what do you think Chopper would say if he was in Australia?
Oh my gosh. What would he say? He'd be like, everyone here is so nice.
No, that's fantastic. No, that's wonderful. That's absolutely fantastic. Brina Palencia, thank you so much. It's been an absolute honor.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. It's been delightful. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
That's absolutely no problem at all. And is there anything you would like to say to the fans out there in Australia and in the world?
Thank you. Just thank you. Thank you for always being so supportive and lovely and kind, and like it blows my mind how supportive anime fans can be. So keep it up. Keep being you. You're all beautiful. I love you all. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Well, guys, if you'd like to find out more about Brina Palencia, you can check out the links which I'll put to you in the description below when this interview is officially up and running. Don't forget to subscribe down below to HannaTalk, like, follow, check out the links below in the description, and be sure to let me know in the comments below what you would want me to do on HannaTalk going forward. Thank you all so much for listening. This is Simon and Brina Palencia signing off. Bye for now.